Happy almost Halloween, guys. It's Mikexingchen. In this video, we're gonna talk about something that really frightens and confuses me, and that's the Ouija board. It should be pretty obvious why this thing scares me, but what confuses me about it is why this $20 evil portal to hell is being sold by Hasbro as a kid's toy. Yeah, I believe Ouija boards really work, and after playing with one once, I never want to touch one ever again. But let's say even if I didn't believe that Ouija boards really do what they're supposed to do, why would I ever buy my kids a toy that's primary purpose is to talk to dead people? I mean, is Battleship sold out? Are they out of Jenga? Are parents really walking down the toy aisle going, I should get something fun for little Tommy. Legos? Nah, too complicated. Slinky? Too simple. Oh, wait a minute. Here's a toy that lets you communicate with the dead. That sounds like something that wouldn't damage Tommy for life. And for those of you out there who still think that the Ouija board is just a toy, and there's a lot of you, you are entitled to your opinion. But in this video, I have collected a number of real life stories of people's experiences with the Ouija board. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you my own creepy Ouija board story so you can judge for yourself. And again, these are supposed to be real life Ouija board stories, and they are creepy. So take this chance right now to maybe turn on some lights, check under the bed, and to make sure you're not near any mirrors because, come on, mirrors are kind of creepy and you don't want anything to come out and get you. This first story comes from someone posting on Reddit that said that when one of her friends found a Ouija board in her attic, they started playing with it and asked who they were speaking to. The board spelled out Gemma Jane. Her friend was adopted, so she didn't know much about her biological family, but later she found out that her biological grandmother died that very morning while they were playing with the Ouija board, and her name was Gemma Jane Parham. This next story was from a man who said that when he was a teenager, he had a friend who mentioned that she had a Ouija board, so he asked her to bring it out so they could play with it. At first, she was reluctant, but eventually relented as long as she did not have to participate. So after she set the board up, the man asked, "Is there anyone in here?" When there was no response, he said, "If anything is in here and not talking, you are a coward." When there was still no response, they put the board away, and that was it, until a week later, when the man was sleeping upstairs at his house and woke up to a typical horror movie-esque stormy night and was trying to figure out what had awoken him. When he couldn't find anything out of place, he tried to go back to sleep, and that's when he heard a very raspy voice coming from downstairs that said, "Get the boy." Of course, that woke him up, but he thought maybe he had imagined it, so he tried again to go back to sleep. Then the voice got louder and said again, "Get the boy." Then all of a sudden, his downstairs door slams. At that point, his whole family was sleeping upstairs and no one should be downstairs at all. See, this is why I would never want to own a house. I really don't want things like basements or attics or even stairs. I mean, those are all the common places where bad things happen. So I would like to eliminate as many ghost dwelling places as possible. That way, if a ghost was to come and kill me, it's just gonna have to do it in my well-lit modern studio apartment that's on the ground floor with easily jump outable windows. I'm not even gonna have closets, and I'm just gonna have like an air mattress sitting on the floor. That ghost is gonna have a lot of trouble surprising me. This next story is terrifying because it involves dolls. This person wrote that one night his cousin, his cousin's father, and his best friend were playing with a Ouija board in the basement. Why people choose to mess with a Ouija board in creepy places like basements, I don't know. But for some reason, in that basement, there was also a super creepy large porcelain doll. So they took the doll and placed it in the next room face down on a pile of towels because they found it too creepy, and then they started to use the Ouija board. At first, the board was just spewing out randomness, so the cousin went to use the bathroom, and when he was gone, the board started to point to a bunch of random numbers, which again just seemed like a bunch of gibberish. So they jotted the numbers down and began to put the game away. But when the cousin came back and saw the numbers, he said, "That's my social security number." Then the group started to use the board again, and this time it said that the cousin will die in the Air Force. The group then asked the entity they were talking to prove itself. So then the board spelled out the word doll. At this point, they remembered the doll they had put face down in the next room, so they went to check on it. When they opened the door, they saw that the doll was standing right in front of the door, staring right at them. I don't really understand these guys because, okay, basements are creepy. Old dolls are creepier. But then you decide the best place to mess with a Ouija board is in a basement with a creepy old doll. These guys are like the people in horror movies that hear a little kid crying in the attic of a deserted, spooky looking house and goes to investigate. Come on guys, kids don't hang out at creepy old attics. There's no Wi-Fi. This next story was posted on Reddit by a person who said that when she was little, her mom took out a Ouija board and asked if she and her brother would like to play with it. So they started to play, and the mom tried to contact George, a friend of hers that had recently gone missing for about a month or so. And when they asked who they were speaking to, George's name was spelled out. And when the mom tried to confirm if that was her friend, he said yes. And at this point, the mom was very upset and asked him where he was. And he said, right behind you. Okay, no, he didn't say that, but that would have been way creepier, right? What he actually said through the Ouija board is that he was in a lake. The family stopped playing immediately, and the mom tried to play it off like it was just a game. But then about 2 weeks later, the police found George's body. He was hit by a car or a train on a bridge, and his body fell into a nearby lake. This next person swears that the following story is true. She said about 15 years ago, her sister had some friends come over one night, and they were again in a basement watching horror movies, and they had a Ouija board and were playing with it. When they weren't getting much of a response, they started yelling and cussing at the Ouija board, calling it fake. Then they stopped playing with the Ouija board and continued to watch the movie. All of a sudden, the electricity goes out. Of course, the TV shuts off. Then the TV comes back on, but this time it was just static and noise. At this point, the girls were all basically peeing their pants. Then the TV turns off and comes back on once more, but the screen was blank with the words, "This is not a game anymore," rolling across the screen in all white. Then the TV shuts off one last time. This following story was posted by a girl who said that when she was in high school in 1986, she had a friend named Johnny who was suffering from a serious illness. Both her and her friend Shelly would regularly visit Johnny in the hospital, and one day after visiting Johnny, they decided to play with a Ouija board and started to talk to a spirit who seemed to know a lot of personal information about them. Finally, they asked the spirit about Johnny and his condition. The board quickly spelled out June 24th, 1987. Johnny won't have to worry anymore, then quickly went to the word goodbye. The girls felt very happy because they thought the board gave them the date when Johnny was going to completely recover. But 1 year later on that date, they realized that's not what the spirit had meant, because that was the day that Johnny died. You know, one thing I never understood was why when people encounter paranormal activities, like if their house is haunted, rather than burning the house down with holy fire and moving away, they get a Ouija board and try to talk to the ghosts. What, you think you can reason with them? You think ghosts want to negotiate? What do you think they want, your Count Dracula cereal? They want to kill you! So in this next story, a person named Josie said that she got the Ouija board after months of harmless paranormal activity in her house. When she contacted something, the planchette started doing figure eights across the board, which basically means someone or something is trying to come out of the board, or that something demonic was there. She quickly put the board away and didn't touch it for months, but then for some reason she took it out once again and asked where the spirit was in the room. Right then, her vision went spotty and saw the image of her head jerking back, and something whispered in her ear, "With you." Finally, a person named Kristen posted this story. She said that one summer her friends met the spirit of a boy named Jake via the Ouija board, but her friends kept asking him to prove that he was real. At the time, everyone was playing with the Ouija board in the basement, and the board said, "Go to your room." When they got to Kristen's room, they saw that crayons were knocked all over the floor, and a notebook was laying open on the bed with the name Jake scrawled out in huge letters. You know, like I said, I would never play with a Ouija board ever again, but if I did, it certainly wouldn't be in some basement. If I ever did for some reason play with a Ouija board again, I would literally do it in broad sunny daylight in an outdoor table in Times Square, New York. So if a ghost or demon does show up, it's probably gonna get hit by a car. So on to my own personal Ouija board story. This was junior year in college, and I went to a school named Truman State University, and I was taking a course over winter break there, so there was really nobody on campus except for me and a few of my friends. And I was taking a class called Parapsychology and Hypnosis, where the professor was talking about Ouija boards. So a few of us decided that it'd be kind of fun to play with it ourselves. And we didn't really want to play with it indoors in anyone's particular room because we're kind of freaked out about this whole thing. So we went outside of one of the dormitories and we were on the grass and we laid out the board. And at this point, It was dusk, and there was like a thunderstorm rolling in, so there's clouds everywhere. The atmosphere was pretty spooky because, again, nobody was on campus. This was my first time playing with a Ouija board, and I'll tell you this right now, I never believed this thing before. I thought it was just a stupid little kid's toy and it would not work. But as soon as we all put our fingers on the planchette, it started to move. And at this point, I'm thinking someone else is moving it. So I'm like, guys, you know, I think one of you guys is moving it. Everyone is kind of accusing each other of moving it. So then we said, okay, let's all close our eyes and then open them one at a time. This way it can prove to everyone that none of us were moving it. When I was the one that opened my eyes and everyone else had their eyes closed, this thing was still moving and we were speaking to it. And of course, in the beginning, we thought like, you know, it's kind of cool because you're talking to this thing. We were asking it questions like, what was its name? I can't remember at this point what it said. We asked how old it was. I think at that point it said like 100 or something. It was really old. And we're just asking all these random questions about our lives. It seemed to know like really detailed information about our lives. And then we asked it if it was good or evil. And it went to good. So we were like, oh, thank God. And then for some reason, I kid you guys this not, the board started to shake. Like, it just started vibrating. We're like, what? I mean, there's no earthquakes. It's Missouri. At that time, we were all accusing each other of making the board shake, or maybe it was the wind or something. But I'm telling you guys, that was not my friends. That was not the wind. That thing just started shaking. And I was most scared after that whole experience because then we all went back to our dorms, and I was the RA. So I was in the dormitory all by myself. So the whole building, I was the only one in there. And my friends put the Ouija board under my bed and just left. That was probably one of the few times I slept with the lights on because literally I couldn't get much sleep. I was just so freaked out, terrified the whole night. Luckily, I was on the first floor. I was literally planning in my head that if anything comes through the door, I'm jumping out that window. So that's my freaky Ouija board experience and the reason why I would never touch one of these things ever again. So hopefully you guys liked this video, and let's keep the stories coming. If you have a crazy, true Ouija board story, post it in the comments below. And also let me know in the comments if you think Ouija boards are just simple kids' toys. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you.